What up, y'all? Welcome to Try's World. It's Sunday, April 26th. I have a few notes and then just non-notes. Obviously, just current events in terms of what happened recently with, I guess, the White House Correspondents' dinner. Had somebody essentially run past security, more or less, with a shotgun and a handgun and some knives. And he made it past essentially the last barrier of security, and it made it dangerously close to where the event was being held. Scary times. I mean, like I said, I don't typically listen to what, the president has to say about much of anything. He seems to think that, he thinks a lot of things that are way off base, but he thinks he's having a real impact. He believes that because of this, people are more prone to wanting to commit these types of acts, and he blames it to his effectiveness, which to me is delusional. Obviously, probably have a study and actually analyze, a lot of people who had impact, and I don't know if it's at the amount of attempts or whether you're successful at it or not, but I think it's more the dialogue that a leader promotes or encourages. And right now we have, I think, more hateful dialogue. We have judges targeted. They've complained about that rhetoric from the president. So there's been many complaints from the political aisle, both sides of the political aisle, but a lot of it originates from this president, and the fact that he can't see it is concerning, and he just thinks he's effective. It's just massive delusion. I guess his hope and what's been working is whatever he says, he hopes that people will follow along. And like he says that he can, while he was campaigning, he could essentially shoot somebody and his followers would still follow him. Now that is a manifestation. That's what he believes in, is speaking things into existence. And quite literally that happened. He didn't literally shoot somebody, but I think his followers in January 6th was a very bloody situation. And obviously the Epstein files is pretty serious. Just a lot of things, and people tend to overlook it. So, half of it is speaking it into existence, half of it is just hoping that people don't catch on. And you put enough, I guess the mentality nowadays is you put enough short-term wins together, it becomes long-term. That's the best way to say it. You do as many ridiculous things as you can in the short term, and then you get away with it in the long run. He really believes that there are things he can do and get away with it and never get caught for it. And he's repeated this several times. It's almost a challenge for him. Almost like, I don't know, a perverse challenge, but a challenge nevertheless. And then he went on to say how statistically, being president is a very dangerous job and somebody's got to do it. And if Marco Rubio had told him, hey, it was a very dangerous job, he maybe wouldn't have ran. That's so not true. He's very power hungry. The fact that Joe Biden beat him by calling him un-American, essentially, and many Americans agreed with Joe Biden. The fact that that happened was unacceptable to Donald, and he had to run again just out of, I don't think anybody can really claim otherwise, or I don't see it as anything other than a power trip, egomania, his constant obsession with saying it was never a lost election. He goes on. And so this stuff is published by the media. That's the only reason why I get a hold of it. I don't check his Truth Social posts. I don't check his posts at all. I really try not to listen to him, but I think the media is very irresponsible and always giving him so much attention. Whether he gives you real information or not, the media loves him because he gets them ratings. And they continue to publish things no matter how ridiculous, because it generates headlines, and headlines generate money and advertisers and things of that nature. So I think it's up to the populace to, again, be able to ignore the noise. I can't emphasize that enough, because there's a lot of noise going on right now, and it's not getting us very far. The statement that he's so impactful that this is why there's so many attempts at him is, he's experiencing so many people trying to take him out, I think it's completely ridiculous. There was this tale, or not a tale, but it was a real life story of Mikhail Gorbachev, I believe, who I think tried rescinding rights of people that were already given. And the lesson there was, it's very difficult to do. I think he was overthrown because of it, or something to that effect. It was either Mikhail Gorbachev or somebody else some other leader in Russia, I believe. But people really dig their heels and they won't say a thing. But once they get the rights, they'll fight tooth and nail to keep them. And right now, every day actually, whether it's birthright citizenship and we're trying to redefine that and trying to be revisionist with it, or posting, I guess he posted racist things about Chinese and Indian immigrants and how they're not loyal. And then people actually get on and say, this is true. Incredible. People, incredible. It's never really bothered me, and it still doesn't. I think, yeah, I've already spoken on this. It doesn't really do anything for me, but continue to do what y'all think is working. I don't think that's working, being racist and saying racist things, but I think he thinks it works and it's gotten him this far, so why not? The point is, I think he's working real hard to redefine rights, rescind rights, and people are fighting over it. And people will fight very, very hard for it. So he's committing a very elementary and fundamental mistake, but this is what happens when you pay for your education you get your education essentially through having money and connections, not real merit. So in my view, he's a DE everything because he was born into money and his connections are through money, and how he got into Wharton was money, and how he's gotten his kids through Wharton is money. So it's this whole system of, I think, corruption, rewarding everything but merit, very little merit. You sprinkle in some merit with a lot of BS, and you still get BS. You get a whole lot of crap load of crap. And so that's the position that we're in. Is we have a president who is just in over his head. It really is beyond his abilities right now. I think part because it just has always been. Part is his age. I mean, even his MAGA base is starting to turn against him. Tucker Carlson's starting to turn against him and regret that he ever supported but it's just he doesn't learn. I don't know if he's ever learned outside of obtaining what I think most should realize is an illegitimate degree at an illegitimate institution for allowing him to have that degree. I think when you when you have this system of constantly giving things out and not rewarding merit, you erode the very prestige of your institution. I think everybody should be looking at Ivy League institutions and higher education institutions now, and elite institutions. And people have been, and it's going to continue, but we need to take a good, long, hard look at it and say, what's going on? Why is this cycle of incompetence continuing? And more importantly, why are working Americans paying for it? That's really the more important part of it, is everyday Americans aren't being helped, and they don't even realize it. Is the unfortunate thing. And so it's these elites playing these games, whether it's Democrat or Republican, by the way. It's the rich elite, wealthy elite, or connected elite who continue to win. And it's the game that they continue to play forever. Nothing's gonna change it until people decide they want to change it, and do something about it, and band together to do something about it. So it's where we're at, but this president is just committing some very elementary mistakes, and you're seeing a lot of non-sympathetic posts about what's happening to the president because he's not sympathetic. I mean, after what happened to Robert Mueller, and he kind of celebrated that death, and he's just, I don't think I think there's a lot of people who don't even see him as deserving of the respect of that office. And I respect it, but I think there's a lot of people who don't, based on what I'm reading and seeing. It's just a complete disregard and a total lack of respect for that office. So now you're eroding what should be the highest office, the most powerful office, the most respected office in the land itself is getting eroded. And people are going to continue to lose respect for the office of the presidency based on what I'm seeing. It's eroding the respect of politicians in general, and it wasn't good to begin with, but it's just, I think it's going to get, if we don't do something about correcting this, to never have this happen again. And now we're getting into elections and trying to influence elections. That's what the right's doing. The extreme right, that's what I call it. That's what they're doing now, is trying to influence elections so that they get perpetual power. If something isn't done, we face grave consequences as a country. These offices will lose so much respect. They will lose and erode their own power, in my view. And we lose our ability to govern. We lose our ability, we need strong rule of law. We need, government working with private economy, public economy working well with the private economy. We need people to have faith in America. We need people to have faith in being able to advance their own interests in America and be able to succeed and live better. This belief is beginning to get eroded. So there are consequences. It's not just this unlimited amount of abuse that office can take. And what we're seeing is the erosion of the very office that should hold the utmost respect and the highest respect and the utmost, like I said, it's just, people should be there. People are losing the awe of the office because we have somebody who will take a tragedy like what happened and turned it into something political, or what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, when a bullet whizzed by the president's face, hit somebody else, and the only thing the president can think of is to get up and do a photo op. I think that's crazy. I think it's crazy that he's plastered everywhere in the White House now, him going like this all bloodied, and everybody's got it on their profile picture, when people literally were actually passed away from that incident. And you got the president not checking on them or making Secret Service's job easier by just getting the hell out of there. He's sitting there holding the whole train up, holding his hand up, pumping fists to get a photo op, people. This is absurd. This isn't how normal minds should work. And if they do, we need to correct it. We need to do better. And I know we can, but we need to continue to work at it. It doesn't just happen. I mean, it takes a long time to build such bad habits. It's going to take a while to unwind those bad habits too. But it can be done. Just we need to really work at it and believe that we can work at it. The foundations, the very foundations, there's people who don't respect it. And they're doing everything they can to remove the very foundations that make America work. And we're seeing it every day. I mean, I've seen articles, he's already made a few billion, 8 billion, 3 billion. If he became a trillionaire at the expense of everybody else, do you think he would care? I pose this question because it's obvious to me. I posted a threads about how in 2007 or something, before he was a politician, I was in real estate, and obviously I read his book, and I didn't think anything of him except he's a little eccentric and he's good at real estate. He's decent at real estate. He's not really that good, but so I went to one of his seminars held in the Moscone Center in San Francisco, and all I could remember is, and I've said this on one of my lives before, I believe, but all I could remember is three incidents in particular. I don't remember what he said even. It was just it just seemed so corny and such like a get-rich-quick scheme that I was like, nah. One, after he was done, he was trying to sell an even bigger thing. It wasn't enough that everybody, paid decent money to go there already. He wanted something bigger, so he's selling an even bigger seminar. Well, after he gets people riled up, just basically playing on their own greed, essentially, and jealousy. And I don't know if it was staged or not. Now I'm wondering, because now everybody's wondering what's staged and what's not from this reality TV star. But people started running up to him on stage, throwing their money up at, throwing their checks ready to, pay for this seminar. I thought it was over the top. I've never seen anything like it. So I didn't think anything of it, but now that I think about it, I think that could have been probably maybe even staged. I don't know. The second incident where for the longest time, I thought was staged. And I thought it was so unnecessary to stage something like this. But there were some, 3 girls in t-shirts, and everybody else is in business attire, by the way, or at least business casual, right? It's in the Moscone Center. And these 3 girls in the back, right behind me over here, are wearing Trump this t-shirts. And they're doing this, hey, Donald Trump. Just like this meme golfer is doing with Trump. He's still doing it, right? So he's creating this aura of jealousy. You want to have his life, so you want to throw money at him. And so, of course, I didn't buy this even more expensive program that he was selling right before the real estate crash, by the way. So that's why I knew this guy has no idea what he's doing. But he invites the girls on stage and then is hugging them like he did to this meme, this meme that's going around now. This random girl on this golf course, hey, Donald. And then this guy with this drone killer, looking around, acting surprised. And so after that whole t-shirt, and I thought Robert Kiyosaki, because Robert Kiyosaki was doing it with him, maybe set that up and did it to garner, I guess, goodwill with Donald. But now that I've seen it played again, he did it recently again, I know, I'm almost positive it was set up. And so now you're seeing the fakeness of everything. And he doesn't care if it's fake or real. He doesn't think people care if it's fake or real. The third thing that I saw was somebody had run up to him and was like, hey, and it was just so weird. It just seemed so out of place. Like I said, it was so bizarre and out of place that any reasonable person would be like, come on, man. But again, I don't think he cares about what's real and what's not. So this guy runs up and he's like, could you run for president one day? And then he goes, you're my man, or something like that, And I thought that could have been real, but who knows at this point, right? Now that I'm thinking about everything. And so that's why people are starting to doubt these incidents. It's because you're starting to see so much fakeness happen over and over. It's it's not even fake. It's just it's no decorum, no waiting. There's no like moment of silence or a moment of sadness or moment of processing. I mean, he immediately jumps on the media, does a media blitz and starts campaigning for a ballroom, or in the other case, telling Democrats to tone down the rhetoric and stop calling him this, that, and the other, when he's calling people just horrific things, celebrating the deaths of other politicians like Robert Mueller. This is seriously delusional stuff. So he uses every single one of these violent acts or attempts against him to rail against one particular thing the Democrats are doing, when he's doing things that I think are just as bad. You know, I've never called him a Hitler or anything like that, but J.D. Vance has, or compared him to it. You know, his own vice president. So, and then that's what he highlighted as something that's, you know, causing violence. And then at one point, he even called out the fact that people were calling ICE Gestapo, and that was causing violence against ICE. And that's why ICE has to defend themselves. And basically that's what led up to, and he kept digging his heels in, and that's what led up to those 2 murders in Minnesota. So it's just a wrong-headed approach. And of course, Christie got the axe for it, and so did the guy on the ground. I don't know what his name is. He's fired now, retired, still posting. I don't know what his name is, but he was that was a character. So all this over the top sort of like stuff happening constantly. It's like, I mean, and all Donald can say is it's because I'm very impactful. It's just crazy to me. So that just happened. That's why that's on my mind. But I do have notes. One of them is a meme about a guy who's like, yeah, the market went up today because I decided not to invest. And that's why the market went up. Doesn't it seem like that? I mean, it's what happens though. And I've been telling people that when you try to market time, you really have to stay invested for the long run. And it's these short-term forecasters from anybody, market forecasters, economic forecasters, many times are wrong. And nobody holds anybody to account for it. It's just like, oh, that's part of the business, you know, just, you know, being a total fool. So that's why I don't think Donald was held to account enough, really, I want to know how much he made off his educational seminars right before the real estate crash. And I know what he was extolling, and it was, you can be wealthy, and it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad teaming up with him, and so showing people how to, you know, be wealthy, essentially. And I think he was selling Trump University, which Trump University has gotten in trouble, but I don't think people really know why and understand why and how wrong it was. And I don't know if he's been fully exposed for that, because I thought it was a grave miscalculation and error that people have just overlooked. So just thought that was a funny meme, and that's why I continue to stress to stay invested for the long run. One thing I did have here, when I started shooting again, I'm you know, I do cardio, I do weights, but I only shot for probably an hour, and my left calf was sore, and then strangely enough, my right lat was sore. Because I'm right-handed, I shoot right-handed. So I realized, gosh, shooting is actually a really good workout. Mainly because I don't keep track of the time as much when I'm playing basketball, because it's something I've always enjoyed doing, and I can move for a long time without even counting the minutes, so to speak. Whereas if I'm on a treadmill, I'll actually time it, because I'm trying to run decently fast, and there's no really objective to it. So, you know, people live to get big, people live to look a certain way, people live to, I live to continue to be mobile and move, but in the back of my head, I am thinking about basketball. My workouts revolve around basketball workouts, so it's nice to be able to shoot again, and I still have a lot of range. I've always been a shooter. It's been good to get in there and get some shooting in still. And then I was able to catch the Lakers game when it went into overtime. Bronny and LeBron sharing the court. I thought that was cool. I'm not a Lakers fan, but I felt a certain sense of like, wow, like I wonder how LeBron must feel so great seeing his kid hit a 3 and then catch an alley-oop the next play. Later, it was basically LeBron's first playoff bucket. So meaningful minutes, meaningful points. They ended up winning, or they ended up going to overtime and then winning that game. And Bronny Jr. contributed to that. So proud dad. And, you know, I thought that was cool. Even I got a little, I don't cry about a lot of things, but I did get a little like emotional. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that must be great. Because for the people who don't know out there, Bronny had like a cardiac arrest when at USC. It was, you know, pretty scary, and people have died because of it. So Bronny overcame that, got back on the court, lost a little bit of his range and three-pointer. You got to get that back. I mean, it's one thing to just shoot stationary, but it's another to run full court, play defense, and run back and make a shot. Shooting and having those legs under you from running really, really hard is a much tougher task. And so I think Bronny is beginning to regain some of that form. Other than that, I don't have many other additional notes. But yeah, I mean, just hung out with friends this weekend. Always good to hang out with high school friends. I was thinking about like reunions and high school reunions, and like for whatever reason, every time I've thought about a high school reunion, I've always thought about like having it back at the high school. I mean, I've always thought that that's what people do for whatever reason, and I'm thinking about all the reunions that I've been to, and we've never had it back at my high school, which is kind of crazy to me. I just, you see in the movies, like, they're back in some room, and I had always assumed it was, like, somewhere in the high school. And they're always, in networking fashion mindset, and it's always obviously awkward, and you're seeing people who changed a lot, people who haven't changed. But I had always imagined that being at the actual high school. So, but hopefully we can do that and make that happen as our next reunion. So just putting that out there, and let's see what else is on my mind. Oh yeah, markets continue to hit all-time highs. Big earnings are essentially is right around the corner, so that could be some of it, but who knows? I mean, we continue to hit all-time highs. So, and I talked about that last week as well. So other than that, what am I thinking about here? Usually I'm really good at putting down notes. I think there's some value in being able to just talk about what's off the top. I do like it when I got more notes, though. It's been busy. It's been busy with still taxes. I mean, taxes, that's always an everyday thing. Business receipts is an everyday thing. Accounting for things, and just accounting, and just keeping record of everything, and keeping good records of everything is a task in and of itself. And then, as always, it's scouring the market for the best opportunities out there. So, I mean, it's a all-encompassing thing. You really gotta love what you do. At one point, basketball, that was my first love out of everything. It still is. It's my favorite sport by far. I played baseball too, or 1 year Little League, but I had a court right in front of my home that I'd always shoot on, a basketball hoop. And I'm thinking nowadays it's so rare with HOAs and how strict they are. And I was like, I wonder why my homes after the one I lived on in Carmichael, why they didn't have hoops. And it's because no homes in an HOA, really have basketball hoops unless it's in the backyard or something. But hanging one up on your roof or putting one up, I just didn't see any. So kind of sad actually. But yeah, I've been hitting that gym, getting my shot in. I'm out at Steph Curry range. I got a video, I'll show y'all. But I'm out at Steph Curry range now. But I've always had that shot. It's just the game has changed so much. I'll tell you what, the game has changed in terms of when you used to step and do your pivot, and you look at the Kobe highlights, he always does this. He never picks up his pivot foot. Nowadays, if you do a jump stop, it can go ahead and take 2 more steps. Jump stop, 1, 2, layup. It's insane. I don't even practice those. But like before, it was like jump stop, boom. But you cannot pick up this pivot foot, right? But now it's, you do a jump stop. From what I understand, you can take another 1, 2. And I actually read the rules, and it's changed to allow the Euro step and all that. And so people nowadays are like, oh, that's a travel. It's no longer considered a travel. It would have been back in the day. So from, not allowing people to hand check, which is like putting your hand on somebody. I'm not really clear on the hand check rule, but I think it's to gain a little bit of it's against the defender. The defender's not allowed to be as physical with that hand check. So from that to the traveling thing to all, I think they're good. To not being able to land under the shooter. That was the Bruce Bowen move. He'd always land right under the shooter. To now you can't hit the hand of the shooter. These are all new. But a lot of it favors the offense. But I think it's a more skillful game. And when you're shorter, like myself or Steph Curry or something like that, you depend on your skill. Like an extreme amount of skill in order to showcase what you can do. But back in the day, it was like the only thing a short player, even with a good shot speed and dribbles and handles, could be good for is getting the ball to the big. I mean, if you shot a shot, which I did against Nevada Union, a lot of people remember that game, but it was actually a preseason game, and I hit 2 threes, but that was beyond the arc, because you can't, as a shorter player, you can't get that close. Getting in the lane can get tough, and so I always thought if I had a shot, and one of my I had a lot of heroes growing up in terms of basketball, but one of my heroes was Jason Williams. They called him White Chocolate. And he'd always have this very pretty handles, right? But then he'd throw it up, boom, shoot it, and then just brick it. Well, Steph Curry mastered, not the dribbles. I think Jason Williams has still way better handles than Steph, but Steph can put it all together with a beautiful shot at the end. So he translated all that into a shot, and I always thought if I could do that and shoot off the dribble really well, I can be effective. Or hit a shot reliably. How many people, after they make it to the NBA, like Michael Beasley, like, I feel for him and what he's doing out there, but he's one of those guys, like, he's playing hungry now because he is hungry. He didn't play hungry when he was wealthy. That's the problem. And now he's lost the opportunity, and now he's all over it. And it's like, it's too late, dude. You know, like, you blew it. And so now he's like all about that ball game and, you know, working out, and he knows he could play in the league. But there was a point in the league where he did have a lot of leverage, and he was a really high pick, and he admits it. He just didn't capitalize. And now that he's hungry again, he's like, let me recapitalize. And it's like, dude, it's too late. You know, like, I forgot what I was even talking about, but, you know, been a long day, or a long night. I was celebrating with my friends last night, a birthday. So, but yeah, I mean, the game has changed a lot. The game has changed a lot. Basketball's changed a lot. Yeah, I just think it's a more skillful game now. And that's good. That's good for players of high skill level. I'm not talking, like, basketball's always going to favor, like, taller players. Any sport's going to favor taller players, but especially, like, basketball or something like that. But so the way you can make up for it is having speed, dribbles, handles, and a shot. But like I said, I was just saying, like, you see it all the time when NBA players actually make it to the NBA and they can't hit a wide open shot. It's less of a case now, but back in the day, I was like, why is it that they can't make this shot? You know, they're wide open, they get paid millions of dollars. Well, a lot of people, after they get that contract, they're done. That's all they've worked for. You know, there's nothing else motivating them. And so it's rare to see someone like LeBron, who's a billionaire and continues to push himself and make game-winning plays like he did the other day for the Lakers. I'm pretty amazed at what LeBron's doing, and it actually motivates me to get out there. I'm like, I know he's doing all this stuff for his body, but I think it's part genetics as well. The guy is massive. I know he's doing a lot, though. I mean, I believe in taking care of my body, too. That's why I continue to, I low-key, like, that's why I take care of my body, is I'm not doing it to, like, get hella big or, like, buff. I do it mainly in basketball terms. Like, I'm always like, if I ever need to get back out there and go on, you know, do a run or go out and shoot for the heck of it, I still want those skills. I still want to be able to do that. And so when I went out there and I was running around, I was just shooting for like an hour, and I found out, you know, I'm working out all these other muscles, like my back muscles, my lower back muscles, my right lat, my calves. I was like, yo, this is such a good total body workout. But the most important thing is I'm not even thinking about the workout or the time I'm putting into the workout, because it's so enjoyable, you know, for me. Well, because I'm pretty decent at it, you know. I've always been able to, you know, like I said, I've always been able to make, not always, I got cut my freshman year. I didn't make it my freshman year, but my middle school, I made it over some decent, you know, I remember we cut some players in middle school. I remember who they were, too. We cut players in high school. I was one of them in freshman year, and for some reason I made it sophomore year. I didn't try out junior year. I should have. But we had a good squad junior year. Well, we had good players at my position junior year, but I still should have tried out because I made it senior year. But yeah, I've always been good enough in basketball to hold my own, and, you know, I mean, it's funny because I grew up playing with the stars on our basketball team. One of the guys who was the star on El Camino, he'd come over and we'd ball. He'd like go to my house, like knock on my door and be like, "Hey, is Try available?" I don't know. All these people like found out where I live, by the way, back in my old neighborhood, but because I had that hoop too, and he'd hoop in front of my yard too. So popular basketball hoop, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I played with all of them growing up, and then the star on Rio's team, I played with him growing up too at Star King, and they became rivals, you know. But yeah, and I'd hang with them. And that's the funny thing. These guys know I could hang with them, but then the coaches come in and they have no idea. They look at my height a lot of times. And I hate to say it, but they look at your race too. Like if you're a coach and you're putting out an Asian player and you're the only one, and that you know, and you're taking a risk, a potentially reputational risk by putting someone out there who doesn't look like they belong. And so I think there's a lot going against Asian players. And Jeremy Lin has talked about it. extensively. And he's actually made it to the NBA, let alone all the other players who, are on the cusp and didn't even get a chance. I mean, Jeremy was couch surfing for a while. So, I mean, it's a struggle as an Asian player. It's not just, people don't tend to look at your skills, unfortunately. But my point is, like, those guys knew I could ball. I knew I could ball, but, and I knew I could hoop, but, you can't convince everybody, and because I grew up with those guys, a lot of them. I played with them for years, and so they knew I could hoop. It's just the coaches didn't know. And I didn't have video back then. I couldn't record what I was doing or nothing like that and show me. I could do this, that, and the other, and look at what I'm doing. I don't think anybody cared. But I mean, video is so prevalent nowadays. It's just would have been nice for me to be able to look at my own shot or show people like, hey, this is what I can do, So nowadays you could do that. You can get, a good workout in, videotape it, post it, or show it to the coaches and say, hey, can I get some feedback on this? And potentially give people more context, of what you can or are capable of. So, I'm hopeful, but, like I said, I mean, I hate it. I hate to say it like that, but it's true. I mean, it's just Asians are some of the newer immigrant groups and the fastest immigrant growing group right now, and a lot of it's for good reason. Obviously there's a lot of talented people and smart people, skilled workers, things like that. I mean, the Vietnamese were, a lot of it was due to the Vietnam War, but Vietnamese people are very hardworking, and when they get that new opportunity in a country that allows people to pursue their dreams, and like the United States does, it just, that work translates to something a lot of times. So, obviously parents and Asian parents, and I've seen some slander online about Asian parents and parenting in general. I read this article about parenting in general. Therapists and it's just a thing now to where it's called no contact, I guess. I don't even know what that is. I guess there's no contact with your parents or something like that. There's a lot of slander, right, about not just parenting, but I saw this guy post about Asian parents, and because it was funny because it was about an ICE officer, and it was a Vietnamese ICE officer, and somebody commented that tiger parenting has caused this and forced their kids to do this and to be soulless and all this stuff, no soul and all this crazy stuff. And I'm just like, that is insane. And so I obviously confronted the guy because it was so ridiculous. And so he was like, oh, I didn't mean that at all. I didn't mean to say that all you do is care about money and nothing else, and you're unimaginative and it's because of your parenting. No, I didn't mean that. I don't even know what you're talking about. Then he's playing dumb he didn't mean that. So, but anyway, point is, parenting, tiger parenting, there's a lot that can be improved, obviously, but as a newer and faster growing immigrant group, you tend to try to cut out what's extraneous, or want to cut out what's extraneous to focus on, to be as efficient as possible on as little resources as possible, because we didn't have a lot growing up between a family of 9, essentially. A lot of kids, right? So my dad was a social worker. My mom did nails, a working mother. But for 9 kids, for 9 people, for 7 kids, that's a lot of mouths to feed. So you have to focus on and be super efficient, with what you have. Sports wasn't a thing that was seemed very core, or because it was an extra cost and it does take time. For basketball, my coaches had to buy my shoes, so shout out to the coaches who helped put that together, and I was so thankful too. It was and I tried, but even as thankful as I was, I still wanted to quit my junior year. But thankfully, my teammates got me, and the coaches really got me back on board. And it was more fun for me. I just, I think it was Jeremy who was Jeremy Lin, who just wanted a little bit of respect from Kobe. And that's what I felt like. I'm fine just practicing with people, with the team, and getting them better, because I played really good defense, but I knew I could play offense. That's what pissed me off. And I know I could ball, and I just wasn't given that opportunity, and so, or enough of that opportunity, or I at least wasn't feeling respected. There were just a lot of things and moments that I was just really, really turned me off. It demotivates you. That's my first exposure to management, good management, and stuff like that. But there was some stuff I just couldn't overlook. My junior year, I ended up finishing that year, but I still, there's a lot to have been thankful for still, even though I didn't get the most out of my senior year. So I quit so my shoes and stuff were paid for my junior year. And then senior year, I didn't really stay on for long enough to even get to that point. I think I was there long enough to at least take a senior portrait for the team, but I didn't want to do that. I wasn't on there to just take a picture. I really wanted to be a part of it. But yeah, nice to get back on the court. And like I said, it's just, hopefully there's a lot more recognition around Asian basketball players. I think our community, or the Asian community, is, and you're starting to see it with like Jeremy Lin, is able to support it more financially and time-wise and things like that, and be able to balance that. But I just think it takes so much resources. It takes so much resources just to do well on standardized tests, let alone athletics and all the extracurriculars that higher education many times demand. And that's why I still think higher education is biased towards, higher income groups, and it favors that, higher income groups, despite the attempts to try to improve it. But the system, I think, has been so, at least higher tiers, in the highest echelons, Harvard, Stanford. I think it's been so bad for so long that this is what we get. We get leaders who got their stamp of approval from our highest institutions and are actually ill-equipped, completely unequipped to handle any type of job like that. Yeah, and they're not even ambitious like people. I mean, it's like, it's like you got Trump there who's like, thinks, and I think there could be a certain sense of this, but I mean, I don't think like one graduate degree is overdoing it. But you got a lot of people in society today saying that could be overdoing it, that could not be worth it. And if you don't do your research and behind it, it could not be worth it. But that's why I did a lot of research, and I was like, this could be worth it, and even if it isn't, the challenge is worth it. Putting myself through that is worth it. That's why I got my master's. But to sit here and like poo-poo on all of it and just lionize just getting a GED and saying that that's the pinnacle, that's peak, it's just, I don't think you need much more than that to make a living. But let's not start, tearing down people who try to do better and put themselves in better light. Because for many people, for a lot of my family, that education was the key to us advancing. So it's in many ways, an objective way to show that you're trying to improve yourself and that you may deserve this promotion over somebody else or something like that. You still got to prove yourself. But my point is, it should mean something still, especially if it's from credible institutions, not necessarily the highest tier or anything like that, but that's where recruiters need to put in their time and actually evaluate interviewees for their merit and not what the institution says. Because I'm convinced once you get into at least business school, once you get in, you're going to get the degree. So how do you evaluate outside of that though? And I think the burden falls on the recruiters to really sift through and look past just the rubber stamp and dig for good candidates with good resumes or good qualifications or good potential. So all right, y'all, I've been ranting for a long while now. It's Sunday, it's getting late, so I'm probably gonna call it a night. And thanks for listening, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Yeah, we'll see if I can continue to how often I'm gonna continue to post, but for now, yeah, I've been posting weekly. But then again, like I said, I could skip a week for any type of reason. I can skip 2 weeks, maybe longer, just depends on what I have on my mind. But it's a good sort of vlog journal of my entrepreneurial journey as well, so I enjoy it as well. Appreciate y'all tuning in, appreciate y'all listening. Hopefully you have a good week and rest of the weekend.